Tasmai Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Pristhaya Bhutale Śrīmate Bhakti Vedanta Swaminiti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschata Deshatarine Jaya Śrī Kṛṣṇa Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Bhute Mahadvirya Puro Vibhu Nirma Yashete Yadamo Shupurusha Bhute Gunan Shodashatmaka Solam Krisishta Bhagavan Vachamsi Me Shri Krishna Sharanam Sharanagatam Katha Amritam Satata Pipatam Bhakti Vedanta Marga Pantanam Sarvaloka Rishideva Janna Prasanna Sarvaloka Rishideva Janna Prasanna. Hare Krishna, dear devotees, welcome to the morning Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam class. So we were looking at text number 19 and 20 yesterday. Text number 19 is very important because it tells us how we can create memories in devotional service. And these memories we should constantly visit and revisit of the times when Mukunda saved Angri, that we saved the lotus feet of Krishna, who is known as Mukunda. Then these memories which take us back to the bliss and the ecstasy we felt when we were serving. And that remembrance is very auspicious because it brings us again to undertake devotional service if somehow or the other we had slipped from the process of devotional service. And the translation of text number 20, here Nārada Muni is emphasizing that the Supreme Lord is all in all, the creator, maintainer, and ultimately the annihilator of everything, and his glories need to be broadcast. So the translation is, the Supreme Lord Personality of Godhead is himself, this cosmos, and still he is aloof from it. From him only has the cosmic manifestation emanated, in him it rests, and unto him it enters after annihilation. Your good self knows all about this. I have given only a synopsis. So can someone start reading from the second paragraph, the purport, according to the Vedic version? Any volunteers?
I can continue if you want.
Yes, Prabhuji, please go ahead.
According to the Vedic version, the Lord is naturally fully powerful, and thus his supreme energies are always perfect and identical with him. Both the spiritual and the material skies and their paraphernalia are emanations of the internal and external energies of the Lord. External energy is comparatively inferior, whereas the internal potency is superior. The superior energy is living force, and therefore she is completely identical. But the external energy, being inert, is partially identical. Both the energies are neither equal to nor greater than the Lord, who is the generator of all energies. Such energies are always under his control, exactly as electrical energy, however powerful it may be, is always under the control of the engineer. The human being.
So we'll just comment on that. So the supremacy of the Lord, can never be doubted. The first seed verse of Bhagavad Gita, Krishna mentions, Aham sarvasya prabhavo mata sarvam pravartate. I'm the source of all spiritual and material worlds. Everything emanates from me. Iti matva bhajante mam. And one who knows this, comes to know this, bhajante mam. Iti matva bhajante mam Buddha bhava samanvitaha. Such a person is Buddha, meaning wise person. So the whole crux, firstly, is to understand that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And this is the mission of Krishna conscious movement. Krishnastu Bhagavan Swayam, that Bhagavan Swayam is Krishna. I think I have stated this, but I'll state it once more time. This incident in Canberra when I was giving a class many years ago. At that time, the whole class was about how Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And a young boy, after the class, raised his hand and wanted to ask the question. And I was very pleased to see that a 9-year-old something boy is so eager. But he asked a very challenging question. He said, "You are saying Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, but who decided that he is God?" A whole class was about Krishna is the Supreme Lord. And when someone poses this challenging question, sometimes it can be very difficult and challenging. But if we approach simply Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam as Praman and look for the evidence, it is Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam which will convince us, because Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam is Krishna himself. And I remembered by my Guru Maharaj's mercy, he had taught Gajendra Moksha prayers to us. And therein is a verse where Gajendra says, Namo Namaste Akhilakaranaya, that, O Krishna, my obeisances unto you, Namo Namaste, who is Akhilakaranaya, who is the cause of all causes, Akhilakaranaya. Then it follows, if he is the cause of all causes, what is his cause? And very beautifully Gajendra says, Nishkaranayat Bhutakaranaya, that of him there is no cause. He is Nishkaranaya. And this in itself is Adbhutakaranaya. It is Adbhuta, it is wonderful, it is amazing. So God created everyone. No one created God. If someone created God, then by that very definition, that someone who created God would be God. But Krishna, by his own internal potency, is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and his message should be broadcast everywhere and at all the time. At all times, he is in control of his all energies. Never his energies supersede him, except when pure, selfless love is there. That is another topic on its own. Yes, Prabhuji, please continue.
The human being and all other living beings are products of his internal energies. Thus, the living being is also identical with the Lord, but he is never equal or superior to the personality of Godhead. The Lord and living beings are all individual persons. With the help of material energies, the living beings are also creating something, but none of their creations are equal or superior to the creations of the Lord. The human being may create a small playful Sputnik and may throw it into outer space, but that does not mean that he can create a planet like Earth or Moon and float it in the air as the Lord does. Men with a poor fund of knowledge claim to be equal to the Lord. They are never equal to the Lord. This is never to be. The human being, after attaining complete perfection, may achieve a large percentage of the qualities of the Lord, say up to 70 to 80%, but it is never possible to surpass the Lord or become equal to him. In a decision,
thank you, Prabhuji. We'll just comment on that. So again, we look at Shastra Praman for this, where it is stated that the human being can never become God. So many times, I remember in my university days, as students, when we used to discuss on philosophy of, God consciousness or religion, many students would say that, oh, man is the potential God, and we can become God. Now, this kind of a nonsense philosophy, if we only stick to Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam and Bhagavad Gita, is completely refuted. And if we scrutinizingly study, we'll be convinced of this fact. So in the 15th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, we see the last 4 or 5 verses, Krishna mentioning these points. And so Krishna says there to Arjuna, Dvau imam purusho loke, sharak shak shara evacha, that there are 2 kinds of living entities. Shara, the fallible, one who is prone to fall, and Akshara, one who is infallible. Shara sarvani bhutani kutastokshara uchyate. And the fallible ones are spread all over the material universe, and the aksharas, the infallible beings, they are in the spiritual world. Now, from this, it may seem that the akshara is the Supreme Lord. However, then in the very next verse, Krishna says, Uttama Purushastvanya. Tva Anya means apart from these 2, Shara and Akshara, there is Uttamaha Purusha. There is another Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is Paramatmeti Udaritaha, who enters into each and every atom and everyone's heart as Paramatma. Yo lokatrayama vishya bhivar avyayam ishvaraha. And he is maintaining all the living entities by entering into all the universes and all the atoms. So this becomes very clear. And then he makes it more clear. Yasmat shara atitoham, because I am superior to the shara, the fallible, which is no doubt. But then he goes on to say, Aksharat apichottamaha. I am even superior to the infallible living entities who have perfected their beings. And in this paper, we see in the next line, Srila Prabhupada says that we can only perfect, the living entities can only perfect themselves to 78%. So Krishna says, even if you perfect yourself, Yasmat shara atitoham aksharat apichottamaha atosmi loke vedecha pratitaha purushottamaha. I am celebrated in all the 3 worlds and the Vedas as Purushottamaha, the supreme and the best personality, because I'm superior to the fallible and the infallible, Shara and Akshara. So we can never become God. This just 3 to 4 verses of Bhagavad Gita in the 15th chapter is enough to defeat this nonsense that people propagate, that man is a potential God. Please go on, Prabhuji.
In a diseased condition only, the foolish being claims to be one with the Lord and thus becomes misled by the illusionary energy. The misguided living beings, therefore, must accept the supremacy of the Lord and agree to render loving service to him. For this, they have been created. Without this, there cannot be any peace or tranquility in the world. Srila Vyasadeva is advised by Srila Nārada to expand this idea in the Bhagavatam. In the Bhagavad Gita, also the same idea is expanded. Surrender fully onto the lotus feet of the Lord. That is the only business of the perfect human being. Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Thank you so much, Prabhuji. So Krishna says, Sarva dharma parityajya mam ekam sharanam praja. So this is our job description. If we only can make all our endeavors, tasyaiva hetu prayateta kovida. The kovida, the expert philosopher or person, tasyaiva hetu, his only cause behind prayateta, their endeavors, is to simply surrender onto the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And this is what we are actually trying daily, to surrender, resurrender to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. This is our only business. All other things, our eating, our shelter, our looking after the family members, automatically will be looked after the Supreme Lord by his internal potencies. Otherwise, if we don't surrender, then we are influenced by the Lord's external potency. And the external potency of the Lord is frustrating. It slaps us here and there, and it makes our life unfulfilled and unsatisfied. Let's go on. Any questions or comments, Prabhu Samatujis? Okay, we'll move on to the next verse. Narayanam namaskritya naram chaiva narottamam devim saraswatim vyasam tato jayam mudiraye. Om namo bhagavate vasudevaya. Om namo bhagavate vasudevaya. Om namo bhagavate vasudevaya. Tvamatmanatmanamave amogatrik parasya pumsa paramatmana kalam ajam prajatam jagata shivaya tam mahanubhava bhyudayo diganyatam. Translation: Your goodness has perfect vision. Amogatrik. You yourself can know the Supersoul Personality of Godhead because you are present as the plenary portion of the Lord. Although you are birthless, you have appeared on this earth for the well-being of all people. Please therefore describe the transcendental pastimes of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, more vividly. Would anyone like to read the paper?
I can read it.
Yes, Mataji.
Purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Srila Vyasadeva is the empowered plenary portion incarnation of the personality of Godhead Śrī Kṛṣṇa. He descended by his causeless mercy to deliver the fallen souls in the material world. The fallen and forgotten souls are detached from the transcendental loving service of the Lord. The living entity are parts and parcels of the Lord, and they are eternally servitors of the Lord. All the Vedic literatures, therefore, are put into systematic order for the benefit of the fallen souls. And it is the duty of the fallen souls to take advantage of such literatures and be freed from the bondage of material existence. Although formally Srila Nārada Rishi is a spiritual master, Srila Vyasadeva is not at all dependent on a spiritual master, because in a sense, he is the spiritual master of everyone else. But because he is doing the work of an acharya, he has taught us by his own conduct that one must have a spiritual master, even though he be God himself, Lord Śrī Kṛṣṇa, Lord Sri Rama, and Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. All incarnations of Godhead accepted formal spiritual masters, although by their transcendental nature, they were cognizant of all knowledge. In order to direct people in general to the lotus feet of Lord Śrī Kṛṣṇa, he himself in the incarnation of Vyasadeva is delineating the transcendental pastimes of the Lord. Thank you, Prabhu.
Thank you so much, Mataji. Very important paper by Srila Prabhupada about accepting a spiritual master. Who is the spiritual master? Here, in the word to word, if we look, that Vyasadeva is described from yourself, Atmana, by your own self, Atmanam, the super soul, Avehi, search out, Amogadrik, one who has perfect vision, Parasya, of the transcendence, Pumsa, the personality of Godhead, Paramatmanaha, of the Supreme Lord, Kalam, plenary part, Ajam, birthless. So here Vyasadeva is described as Amogatrik, one who has a perfect vision and is a perfect seer. So the question comes, why is Vyasadeva despondent and misdirected if he is a perfect seer? And he himself is the plenary portion of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Now, it is said that to teach people in general this principle, sometimes the Supreme Lord also puts himself in a position to learn. And this is what Vyasadeva is doing. And Narad Muni, we see, is acting here as the spiritual master. But we see that Narad Muni also becomes diverted in future point in time. This is when in Padma Puram, the pastime of Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam is narrated. At that time, Bhakti Devi, along with her two sons, Jnana and Vairagya, they, after traveling all over India, reach Vrindavan. Now, Bhakti Devi, after reaching Vrindavan, rejuvenates and becomes like a young maiden. However, her two sons, Jnana and Vairagya, remain old. We can go on to this detail of this pastime sometime. It's a very beautiful pastime and so many lessons to be learned. However, the point is that at that time, Narad Muni took a vow to revive Jnana and Vairagya, and again re-establish Bhakti Devi, the worship of Supreme Personality of Godhead, as the principal means of worship in Kali Yuga. And Narad Muni did everything. He recited all the Vedas. He recited even the Bhagavad Gita to revive Jnana and Vairagya. However, when he did this, Jnana and Vairagya only just merely opened their eyes. But as soon as the recitation of Bhagavad Gita and the Vedas was over, the Upanishads was over, then they again fell back into slumber and sleep. Then Narad Muni became perplexed as to what can I do to revive Jnana and Vairagya. So Bhakti is the supreme, the sublime process of approaching the Supreme Transcendental Lord. And it is the only means. However, wherever there is Bhakti, there naturally will be Jnana, the knowledge about Supreme Absolute Truth, and Vairagya, the detachment from material association, which basically means that the person loses taste for mundane things. And we experience in Krishna consciousness that things that we used to relish previously, we do not take pleasure in those things now. It becomes very tasteless. In Hindi, they say phika, sab phika ho gaya hai. So, if we don't develop a sense of knowledge and detachment naturally, then it means that our bhakti is misplaced. We are just mere sentimentalists, just feel-good devotees, just festival devotees. We feel good. The rest of the time, we just go away doing our own things. So Narad Muni became perplexed as to why the Jnana and Vairagya, I'm not able to revive them. So Narad Muni took a vow that I'm not the son of Lord Hari if I'm not able to revive Jnana and Vairagya. And at that time, there was Shabda Brahma, Akashvani, where firstly the Shabda Brahma, Akashvani glorified Narad Muni for taking this great vow of reviving Jnana and Vairagya. And at the same time, the Akashvani also, the Shabda Brahma, also directed Narad Muni that when you perform a sat karma, a welfare activity, that time Jnana and Vairagya will be revived. And you will soon meet some great personalities who will direct you towards that endeavor. So Narad Muni went on looking for these great personalities, and he ended up in Badrikashrama, and there he met Sanat Kumaras. So Sanat Kumara saw that Narad Muni was very much aggrieved and unhappy. And the cause of his unhappiness was the unhappiness of Jnana and Vairagya and Bhakti Devi. So a saint, it is said, Prabhupada mentions in many papers, is para dukha dukhi, that he is miserable seeing the misery of others. And that is the only interest of the spiritual master, of how I can take away the misery of my disciple. And so the Sanat Kumaras at that time also spoke a bit sarcastically to Narada Muni. As Narada Muni is speaking here to Vyasadeva at the start, they said, Narada, you already had instructed the greatest welfare activity to your disciple Vyasadeva. And you know yourself have forgotten that Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam is the greatest welfare activity. Why? Because once anyone who hears Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, the bhakti would sprout in heart, and along with the bhakti, jnana, the knowledge about the Supreme Personality of Godhead and knowledge about devotion, and together with vairagya, the detachment or losing taste for mundane things will automatically be revived. And so there, Narad Muni listened to Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam from Sanat Kumaras, and although that Bhagavatam Katha was happening in Haridwara, but in Vrindavan, the effect of the Katha was such that Jnana and Vairagya and Bhakti Devi, who were in Vrindavan, they became revived. So if daily attendance of Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam is there, then these diversions in our lives will not come about. Our greatest problem is that we are very much oscillating, jumping like a monkey from here to there, this branch, that branch, sometimes to upper planets, sometimes to lower planets. But within this world also, sometimes we minimize the process of chanting Hare Krishna mantra. We give more prominence to Vastu or astrology or all these other things. We minimize, reading of Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, and we go into some other literatures. However, I was hearing Swayam Bhagwan Keshav Maharaj in one of the classes, he mentions that Prabhupada's greatest mission, which he gave most importance to, was Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, translating, writing of Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, and also he would himself read Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, what he had translated and given the purports to. And this single source is the greatest welfare activity, Sat Karma. And if we ourselves undergo the process of Kirtanam, Shravanam, and Smaranam of Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, and at the same time, somehow or the other distribute this literature to others, and not only distribute to others, but also engage them, train them around this culture of hearing and reading Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, then we will feel a sense of great satisfaction that nothing else in this world will bring about. These two things, chanting of the Hare Krishna Mahamantra, along with distribution of Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam and listening of Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam alone, will give us a sense of not only purpose, but satisfaction of the purpose in life. We just do the word to word. Continue with the word to word. Ajam birthless prajatam, having taken birth, jagataha, of the world, Shivaya, for the well-being. So for the well-being of everyone, Satkarma, that Mahanubhava of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Śrī Kṛṣṇa, Abhyudayaha, pastimes, Adhigarnyatam, described most vividly. So the pastimes of Krishna, Gunanuvarnana, is described most vividly, and Narad Muni is impressing on Vyasadeva to do that. Any questions or comments?
Prabhu, I have one. In a lot of times in preaching, we come across this question because this verse talks about having a spiritual master. We come across a question, it's easier to trust a guru when the guru is Srila Prabhupada. But how do we trust the other spiritual masters, sannyasis that we have around today? Like, people, and then we have seen so many people not taking initiation because of the trust issues as well. How do you, Prabhu, respond to those questions?
If we are sincere and our sense of purpose is sincere, then Krishna will stand in our life as spiritual master who will take in charge of our lives. The problem with us is that we are reluctant, or people in general are reluctant to surrender. And that can be understandable because in Kali Yuga, there are many cheaters. Lord Shiva himself says, Guru Pavos Santi Shishyasya Santa Vittaka Haraka. They're only interested in taking the money of disciples or name and fame. But Sadguru Durlabho Devi Shishyasya Santapaharaga. The Sadguru is very, very rare to find. However, if we ourselves are sincere, then we will be guided. One thing we should, remember that that Krishna ultimately is the Chaitya Guru, and he directs. And sometimes we see also that the person may be sincere, but he gets a spiritual master who may not be to the standard. But nonetheless, the disciple is very fixed. He is only grabbing the essence from the spiritual master. So, in 11th canto of Bhagavatam, we see that, this Avadut Brahmana describes he has 24 spiritual masters, and from each one he takes various lessons. So in ISKCON movement, our primeval spiritual master is Srila Prabhupada, and and anyone who actually is a follower of Srila Prabhupada and is giving instructions, we can be inspired by him. And ultimately, when we try to judge a spiritual master, we forget that we also are in a very, precarious situation. So rather than being judgmental, it is better to take the essence from everything. That is the work of the disciple. Take the essence and not try to be judged. Actually, many disciples of Srila Prabhupada, they also committed this offense of trying to judge Srila Prabhupada. They did not find Srila Prabhupada as in all. They thought Prabhupada's English is not perfect, so how can he be a spiritual master, and so on and so on. As they say, familiarity breeds contempt. All in all, Brahmanda Brahmite Bhagyavan Pavana Jiva, who is that fortunate person wandering throughout the universe? Guru Krishna Prashadapaya Bhaktilata Bij. That one who gets the mercy of Krishna. Mercy of Krishna is what? Spiritual master. And mercy of spiritual master is Krishna. So spiritual master will give Krishna, Krishna will give spiritual master. If we just have faith in this aspect of life, then we can save ourselves from many complications. And in Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, we see even great personalities, can deviate. But that is not their disqualification. their qualification is that even after being deviated, even after those deviations, they come back again to the lotus feet of Krishna. And each one of us is a jiva. Even Brahmaji, the perfect so-called living being, deviates. Then what to speak of, us so we should, take everything with that wider and broader perspective. That spiritual master is perfect in his instructions, and he's perfect in his conduct. If anything that we are not able to understand, it may be a temporary thing. Is that okay, Mataji?
Yes, Prabhu. Thank you.
Prabhu, can I add something here?
Please, Prabhuji.
Permission. So, as I understand Sneha's question, someone who is, having these doubts, obviously they're starting with on a very tricky footing. Prabhupada actually addressed that when he, I think in a room conversation, he mentioned that even if someone is not a pure devotee, but if they are spreading the message of Krishna, they can be taken as guru. That's point number one. Point number two is that in ISKCON, the GBC, the Sannyas Committee has, I was speaking to Prahladanda Maharaj, who's Sannyas minister, and he was saying that after they have installed a proper checks and balance system for the gurus, there's only one fall down in last about 25-30 years. And number three is that because they are spreading the message of Krishna, they are following Prabhupada, and because the system is there, someone, even if they have doubts, they can test and they can question. And that's why there's a period between taking shelter and taking initiation is there, so that the disciple also can have full faith. I remember one guru, they were in our house after a program, and one devotee wanted to take shelter of that guru, and that guru actually told the aspiring disciple that, okay, so we'll be in touch. You ask me questions, I will ask you questions, and once we are both satisfied, then we will go ahead with formal. So when we put all these things together, there is like almost a perfect system which we have here, which can make sure that the guru is a bona fide proper guru and teaching the message of Lord Chaitanya. Thank you, Prabhu.
Thank you so much, Prabhuji. I'll just touch on the first point you mentioned there, and you gave very practical examples, within the practicalities of ISKCON, that it is the instructions which should be taken into account most. And on this account, the pastime of Krishna, when Krishna is bound by Mother Yashoda, and he approves and liberates those twin Arjuna trees, Hari Sauri Prabhu, he in his commentary, he writes, and Radha Govind Maharaj very nicely explains that the Lord is bound and yet he's able to liberate. Similarly, the spiritual master, even though bound, still can liberate the disciples by giving perfect instructions. So the instructions that Srila Prabhupada has given in Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, and all the devotees who are following Srila Prabhupada are repeating those instructions. Those instructions are perfect and enough for us to extricate ourselves from the entanglement of birth and death. Thank you. So sorry, we have gone quite a bit over time today. I'll try to avoid it next time. Try to conclude by 5 minutes before, so that we can have time for question and answer as well. My sincere apologies. Granthra Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Have a wonderful Krishna conscious day, and we'll continue tomorrow. Hare Krishna.
Thank you.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Thank you, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.